Good evening and welcome to the budget hearing for fiscal year 2025-26, the North Branford Town Council on Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 at 6:35 in the North Branford High School cafeteria. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Angeloni.
Here.
Deputy Mayor McMillan.
Present.
Counselor Abelson.
Here.
Counselor Diamond.
Here.
Counselor Gold.
Here.
Counselor Miller.
Here.
Counselor Palladino.
Here.
Counselor Felicia.
Here.
And Counselor Zampano.
Here.
Okay. First order of business tonight is a presentation, and it's a proclamation for World Autism Month. And can I have Ashley McLean please come up to the podium? You can bring family with you. So I'm going to read the proclamation quick. The Town of North Branford proclamation recognizing World Autism Month. Whereas autism affects 1 in 36 children and 1 in 45 adults in the United States and is a complex disorder that impacts each person differently, resulting in unique strengths and challenges. And whereas autism can cause challenges with verbal and nonverbal communication, social interaction, and repetitive behaviors, and can affect anyone, regardless of age, race, ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic background. And whereas autism is often accompanied by medical conditions that impact quality of life, and whereas teams of medical professionals, patients, family members, and friends are working concurrently to enable a comprehensive, collaborative approach to advancing research, diagnosis, and treatment plans of all forms of autism to provide a better understanding, strengthen advocacy efforts, and improve access to services and resources throughout people's lifespan. And whereas early diagnosis and intervention tailored to individual needs can have lifelong benefits, easing the transition to adulthood and fostering independence. And whereas each person and family affected by autism should have access to reliable information, support and opportunities to live happy, healthy, and productive lives. And whereas the Town of North Branford is honored to take part in observing April as World Autism Month. Now therefore, let it be known, the entire Town Council does hereby proclaim the month of April as Autism Awareness Month in the Town of North Branford, dated this first day of April 2025 and authorized by my signature. Congratulations. Here, we're going to turn this way.
He has perfected his smile. A little job. Thank you. Good job.
Okay, so just a few housekeeping things before we get started tonight. So anyone who wishes to speak after the presentation by the town manager and the Board of Education chairperson, they're going to present the budgets first. Then after that, we will open the public hearing. If you wish to speak at the public hearing, there is a sign-in sheet by the door, on the table by the door. Please print your name and address. This will make it much easier for our clerk to get it into the minutes, the name and your address correctly. So please sign up. There will be a 3-minute limit for speaking. The town manager sitting at the end will be keeping track We do have a sign for 30 seconds as a reminder. So you know you have 30 seconds left and to start wrapping it up, and then he has one at 3 minutes. So please note that. At this time, we are going to go into the presentation of the fiscal year 2025-26 budget, and the first presentation is going to be by the town manager.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Angeloni, members of the council. Can everybody hear me okay back there? Good. Okay. Members of the Board of Education, Mr. Superintendent, members of boards and commissions, and the public and taxpayers. I'm Mike Downs, Town Manager of North Branford, and I'm here to present to you the proposed budget for the 25-26 fiscal year. Just a little bit about the budget process. The budget process sets our town's priorities by locating resources. My details in this are reviewing requests submitted by the town departments, make adjustments and submit them to the town council, at which point the town council receives it. They review the proposals, they conduct workshops and a public hearing, and they make final adjustments to the budget and hold a referendum vote in May. So far, we've had 2 budget workshops. One was held on March 11th and then one on March 25th. Those focused on the police department, parks, recreation, senior center, fire department, board of education, library, and public works. And the public hearing is today, April 1st. We'll set aside jokes about it being on April Fool's Day that we're doing this for later. Budget workshops, April 8th. That's next Tuesday. East Shore District Health will be making their presentation on April 10th. And public comment will also be available at both of those workshops. So this isn't your only chance to speak on the budget tonight. The budget finalization is expected at the April 22nd workshop. That will be at the discretion of the council. And then again, the referendum, there's a town-wide budget referendum on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, and I'll get into that a little bit later at the end of the presentation about how that works. So the first thing about the budget, of course, is the landscape that we're in, and as everyone knows, we just underwent a revaluation, a state-mandated revaluation of all real property in the town, and the process resulted in a median property value increase of 50% for residential property and 36% overall. So as we all know, that's a staggering jump, but it's also comparable to all other Connecticut communities that underwent their evaluation this year and the previous couple of years. There are nationwide budget challenges that impact all municipal budgets this year. Common ones like inflation, increased cost of materials and supplies, and increased cost of services. State budget challenges, the impact of on North Branford by the state budget and policy decisions made at the state level impact us greatly. There's uncertainty of state revenue. Currently, our state revenue is the equivalent to 11.8% of our total town and education proposed budget. And unfunded mandates have an impact. Those include early voting, police accountability, risk warrants, evictions, MS4, and others. Our local budget challenges are to maintain town services and critical infrastructure despite escalating costs, balance the service needs of the community against an increasing burden on taxpayers, and town departments seeking increased funding levels to support resident services, demands, and state mandates. Our state revenue trends have dipped a little bit. You can see here on this chart the history going back to the fiscal year 17 to 18 and what we received in state revenue. Governor Lamont's proposed 26-28 biennial budget makes a steep cut in our education cost share funds. We've lost $254,111 in that proposal. I expect colleagues here at the Board of Education will address that. Budget highlights. The increase of the proposed budget in its entirety is 8.5%. Town government operations up 7.2%. Board of Education 6.16%. And our debt service is up 9.47%. So you can see here that the budget as a total, general government, and the changes up 1.5 million. Our debt service is up 547,000 this year. Education is up 2,088,000. capital improvements are up $485,000. New debt service this year is, as I said, $547,084, and our total debt service this year is $6.3 million. That includes debt service specific to the new police station, which accounts for $567,250 of that amount, and the North Branford High School, which accounts for over $2.9 million of that. Additional items that are covered in debt service are the NBIS and STW projects, our communications upgrade, and other previous debt that has been refinanced. Revenue to finance the proposed budget. The fund balance is traditionally used to provide a form of tax relief, and the town council has been disciplined and measured in the use of the fund balance in previous years. This year I'm proposing using $750,000 for fiscal year 26, which is in keeping with prior allocations. Other revenues, interest income is expected to improve slightly as interest rates are increased. Permit revenue is projected to remain relatively flat in association with level building activity, and real estate conveyance is also predicted to remain flat. Expenditures. So for the entire total town budget, you can see the split here. Total government operations account for 34.1%. Board of Education, of course, is the largest piece of the pie here with 53.5%. Our fund balance is 1.6%. Capital improvements accounts for 1.1%, with debt service accounting for 9.4%. The total budget is $67.1 million. And again, what I'll be focusing on is the item that is not the Board of Education's. They'll focus on that portion of the budget after I speak. So for the general government section of the budget on the town side, personnel costs account for 39% of the budget. Materials and supplies are up 2.7 with at $822,000. Contractual services, $5.8 million or 19.3%. Capital outlay is $134,000. Benefits and insurance at $4.3 million. Operating transfers, $51,000. Debt service, $6.3, as I mentioned. Capital improvement at $779,000. So expressed a little differently, you can see personnel services taking up 39%, which is the biggest piece here. Contractual at 19.3%. Supplies at 2.7. Capital outlay is 0.4. Benefits and insurance, 14.5%. Debt service is 21%. For a total of $30,068,131. So general government expenditures by area. General government accounts for $6.7 million. Public safety at $8.6 million. Public works at $3.2. Culture and recreation at $320,000. Health and welfare at $2 million. WPCA at $100. Contingency is $325,000. And operating transfers at $51,000. So expressed a little differently. See the percentages here for general government by area. Public safety, of course, taking up the largest piece of the pie there at 38%. General government at 30%. Culture and recreation at 1%. Public works 14%. Solid waste at 7%. And the rest are at 1% or under 1%. Our fixed costs have increased, and those include refuse removal. Our municipal waste increases are everywhere and increased this year by $44,524 as we enter the 5th year of our 5-year refuse contract. Healthcare and insurance, employees covered by the state's partnership plan, the rates have gone up roughly 9%. And property and casualty, new buildings have been added to our inventory, premiums increase pace. I did want to mention our senior homeowner tax credit. That is a phased-in benefit increase. Council's made it a priority to reduce the local tax burden on qualifying seniors and those with disabilities. Starting in 2022, the amount was $300. It was raised in 2 increments, July 1st of 23 to $500, and then July 1st of 24 to $700. Those do result in revenue losses. And effective July 1st of 24 last summer, that was at $103,600. There is a proposal that will be on the agenda for the April 8th meeting to adjust the income limits from 50,000 single to 60,000 married, up to 60,000 single and 70,000 married, to make it effective July 1st of 25. This is in keeping with state levels associated with this, and it would result in additional projected revenue loss of $15,000 to $20,000. The cap was previously set $125,000, and this proposed budget raises that to $140,000. So some of the important commitments we're making in keeping with this budget is our public safety commitment. We've got the new police department headquarters and EOC that opened in June of 2024. The facility replaced an outdated station built in 1970. It's a 21,292 square foot PD and 3,000 square foot emergency operations center and 4,000 square foot outbuilding. It's a $16.2 million building with $4.5 million in state funding and $1 million in federal EOC grants. We're also keeping the commitment on increased police personnel. That was a priority of the council. 2 years ago, the council approved adding 2 new police officers. The town is meeting the obligation that comes with these new salaries and benefits, and the police department received a COPS grant for 4 new additional officers and have hired 3 of those so far, and the town meets the obligations of the benefits of these new hires. We're also keeping our commitment with the fire department. We're continuing a training progression to improve the caliber of our fire personnel. In-town Fire Officer 1 is slated for 25-26. We're replacing a 30-year-old fire engine with a new engine 1. Replacing a Lucas life-saving piece of equipment for patients in cardiac arrest. Replacing 1 set of extrication tools, and providing our volunteers with compliant firefighter gear. We're also keeping our commitment to education, and not to step on my colleagues' toes over here, but just to mention our new state-of-the-art North Branford High School, which we're all in today. Phase 2 of this was completed this past year, 107,000 square foot facility with new learning commons, science labs, engineering and technology, culinary arts, media center, arts and music, gymnasium, and cafeteria. So expenditures for capital improvements. Capital requests from the department this year totaled $6,651,190. I've reduced this proposed request to $779,062, a reduction of $5.8 million. Our capital improvements include townwide facility maintenance reserve created in 21 to address needs of town buildings. We have 2 new police vehicles addressing periodic replacement of police vehicles that's needed. Public Works Small Equipment Reserve allows replacement equipment for PW operations, and our pavement overlay patch reconstruction funds, which funds a portion of the road improvement program. Reductions in budget requests. So the departments requested, along with the Board of Education, here a total of $72.3 million, which would have required a mill rate of 32.5, and that is under the new mill rate. And I propose reducing these requests by $5.1 million to $67.1 million, requiring a 29.12 mill rate. The proposed tax rate, the current mill rate, as you know, is 35.93 mils. And following the revaluation, this proposed budget lowers the mill rate to 29.12, which is a decrease of 6.81 mils. The value of a mill has changed. 1 mil before the revaluation was roughly $1.3 million, and it is now $1.8 million. So this proposed 6.81 mill rate decrease equals $4.6 million to be paid in new taxes. So just to give you a sense of the apples to apples, because I understand that it can be confusing, understandable, between last year's mill rate of 35.93 and this proposed budget's mill rate of 29.12. So last year, with the mill rate at 35.93, we had a budget of $61.8 million. Following the revaluation, the mill rate to produce the same $61.8 million budget would be 26.6 mils under the new post-reval figures. So this proposed budget with a mill rate of 29.12 can be considered a 2.5 mil increase. But that is not the entirety of the story, and I want to be very clear about this. Residential property assessments have grown at a significantly greater rate than the commercial, resulting in a 3.8% shift in the tax burden toward residential property. So this means that even with a 0 increase budget, Many homeowners would still see a moderate tax increase post the revaluation. You can see in these two charts the shift of how far out residential outpaced other forms of property, and then the 3.8 shift out of commercial towards residential. So what is the impact to taxpayers? A median home now is valued in town at $424,000 at an assessed value of 70%. At $296,800. The tax bill in fiscal year 24 to 25, based on the old 35.93 mill rate, would be $7,046. The estimated tax bill based on the new 29.12 mill rate would be $8,643, or an increased tax bill for a median homeowner of $1,597 a year. Reduction options. So we're at the beginning of the process with the town council here. We can further reduce capital expenditures, we can reduce operating budgets, and we can increase fund balance allocations, which is something not recommended, but it is an option. And now on the townwide budget referendum. Once the town council finalizes the budget, a townwide referendum is going to be held on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. Polls open from noon until 8 p.m. Voting is by absentee ballot. It's allowed to vote by absentee ballot if you like. Voters vote on three options when you go in there. It's either I accept the budget, I reject the budget because it is too high, I reject the budget because it is too low, and for the results of the referendum vote to be binding, 15% or more of registered voters must cast a vote. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you, and I will turn it over to the Board of Education.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the council for giving us the time. Again, we met last week and went through a quick overview. Tonight's to go into much more detail. Obviously, Michael laid out some of the challenges in every community, in every state, in every small town, in every large town that we're all facing. It's no different than your home, with what you're seeing, the changes in your food prices, your cost of living, your fuel, everything else. We're the largest budget, without question. We have over 435,000 square feet of building space in the community. We're the largest employers in the community, and we absorb the lion's share of the cost for the town. This is my 15th budget proposal. This is by far the most difficult. But I say that and stand before you, looking out at this complex, at this school that we recently completed for $74 million, the state-of-the-art opportunities for teaching and learning, and we're really proud. And I want to, before I turn the presentation over to our board chair, I want to recognize my administrative team for their efforts. This has been several weeks that we've been working on this budget. It's already been reduced by 2% to get down to what we call a status quo budget. That means there are no new employees, there are no new programs, there are no new initiatives. This is just carrying forward, taking on contractual obligations, increased costs in heating and cooling, insurance, and everything else that we have to absorb. So that being said, I want to start with John Florio, who was our Director of Facilities. Everyone knows John, also a fireman in the community, been with us a long time. Our Jerome Principal, Beth Parker, TBS, Joe Modio, MBIS, Carolyn Dahlstrom and Tracy Wooten, the high school, Todd Steffler, Megan Lee, our curriculum instruction, Carter Welsh, Special Ed Director Sarah Alberti and Catherine Thompson, our IT Director Tom Lonsdale. It's funny how I say that, IT Director, Mike Blake's out. Am I at my 30-second limit? Are you going to flag me? I'll speed up. And our business manager, Martha Pond, as well. They've done an incredible job putting this all together tonight, working with our board. I want to thank and acknowledge our board for your efforts and your input throughout this process over the last several weeks. So that being said, Board Chair Marjorie Bonaduce will come and present the budget.
evening, everybody. I have the distinct pleasure of presenting the most expensive budget in the town. So bear with me and I'll explain what we do, how we do it, and the costs that come with that. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. I'm new to the board. I started last June, so I've been on the board less than a year, and I've been on a very steep learning curve ever since. We do have experience on the town council side from town of Hamden, but this is a much different place altogether, the Board of Ed. We've got federal and state grants, unfunded mandates, partially funded mandates. So a lot of things to consider when we go about putting the budget together. The first slide here is our teaching and learning priorities. We first of all want to create a climate of care and trust, a culture of collaboration and thinking cultures, and this is what informs the rest of our teaching and learning goals. The next slide does go over the teaching and learning goals. I think there's a packet if you'd like to pick one up and read those. I won't read every slide just in the interest of time. The first slide goes over our budget allocation by category. We have salaries is the largest portion of our budget, taking up 58.6%. Benefits is the second largest at 16.9%, and transportation at 7.7%. Just salary and budgets is about 75% of our budget. If we add transportation, it's about 83% of our budget, those three items. The next slide, our budget allocation by category, and comparing fiscal year or academic year 24-25 we're currently to 25-26 coming in September. And you can see there are some significant increases with health benefits. Our health benefits increased by $928,000, so almost $1 million that we have to absorb. In the next slide, you'll see the reductions from the superintendent's budget. The board cut $629,424.33. 40 different line items have been affected and cuts have been made to find these savings. You'll notice there is a lone green line at the very end, and that is the late bus. After speaking with our middle school and high school principals, we realized that this late bus run is vital to our middle school and young high school students who want to partake in after-school activities, sports, music, theater, and we felt that that was just so important. We really, for $36,000, we just didn't want to take that away. So we're hoping that we can save this expenditure. It is currently been removed from the budget. So we'll be working on that. We'll move on to our grants. Grants change over time. This graph will show you from 22. We had a healthy grant. We received a lot more money than we'll be receiving in this coming year. We were at a high of $409,000, and in the coming academic year, we'll be receiving $111,000. We had 2 grants last year that are no longer available, and so that was another decrease. And these grants, the high dosage tutoring, I'm going to mention one, the high dosage tutoring grant, which was aimed at improving math scores for middle school students, was very, very successful and effective, and Dr. Welch could provide additional information to show you what that grant did for our students. The next slide, these are federal grants. These IDEA grants are for individuals with disability, and these go from pre-K to our 18 to 22 program. So we educate from preschool age 3 to age 22. That's 19 years. It's basically a generation of students that are learning, and we're going for. The last page of grants is the educational cost sharing grant. This is the grant that Mike Downs mentioned. This comes from the state. This is kind of a subsidy that comes to the town to help offset the cost of public education. And it's been decreased from current year, about $250,000 to $7,077,000. I'm not going too fast, but it's some time. Okay,
You go
thank
fine.
you. Staffing. We currently employ 330 total employees. We have not added any employees or are suggesting we lay off any employees. We'd like to keep them all. The next slide shows salary increase by affiliation. So we've pulled out certified teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, and most of these increases, or in the certified teachers, there's a tiny bit of decrease that was due to a grant that we received, but most of these are contractual increases. The next slide shows our benefit increases. I told you that health insurance was almost $1 million, and this kind of breaks it out between dental, vision, and things of that nature. We'll move on to health insurance. This is a kind of a history of our health insurance payments going back to year 2007 to current. The next category is teaching and learning, our curriculum, and the next slide goes over all of our core courses and extracurricular things, such as the Talented Gifted Adult Education Program, music, theater. This is everything that encompasses teaching and learning, and this is $889,000. Special services. Special services is special education. We have an amazing staff of special services. We are, as I said, we're educating pre-K age 3 to 22. We do have a new pre-K program. When I say new, I mean it's been around, I think 4 or 5 years now, something, 4 or 5 years. This is the first year that we are, we moved to a tuition-based pre-K program. This, we spent a lot of time on this and how it would affect families, and we think this is probably the best way that we can move forward with this program. There is a, if we are receiving these federal grants, which is the next slide, it's the Individuals with Disabilities and Education Act. We do have to maintain the effort, maintenance of effort, which means that we cannot spend less. If we accept these grants, we cannot spend less on special education in the current year than we have the prior year. So in staffing for special services, we do have 96 individuals directly involved in providing special services. We do not, there is an occupational therapist and a physical therapist here. They're not on staff. We purchase those services as needed. But our paraprofessionals and social workers, school psychologists, and teachers are just absolutely amazing what they do. Just to let you know how many students are affected or are involved in our special education services, 233 students currently have an individualized education plan or program. 198 have 504s, which are modifications that may be needed temporarily or permanently for students to learn better and take tests. And there are 20 students currently in the referral system. Special services. Total amount of $2,732,000. The cost of outplacing students has become extremely expensive in recent years. Our staff, as I said, has brought, we had in 22 and 23, we had 17 students that were outplaced. We currently have 9 students that are outplaced. So we have decreased that number And ordinarily, you would see a savings with that, but we haven't. We've actually just seen cost avoidance because the cost of outplacing students has increased exponentially. And we'll move to facilities. Facilities is short and sweet. There is one slide. We are asking for a $306,000 increase over last year, mainly because of the new high school and the utilities involved in the new high school. We don't have any solar credits that are being applied at the high school, so we are paying for that. But that will change over time as we start to accrue more solar credits to this building. Transportation. The next slide. So student transportation has increased by 26.12%. We're just seeing increases in fuel and services like this all across the board, as Mike Downs mentioned. That's really it on this slide. We did make some cuts, as I said. The field trips have been cut for in-town field trips. So sometimes students from the high school and middle school will travel to Pawtucket Valley or Jerome and do something with the students, be involved in a project or a science day or a reading day, and that has been cut. So we are trying to make some cuts in our budget to save money. Athletics. The cost of running an athletic program is $710,000. It's an increase of $18,000 over last year. We are able to pay for our athletic game workers with gate fees, so that's been good. And then we move into variable costs. So variable costs include student enrollment. We are expecting 11 new students in the coming fiscal academic year. Fiscal year. Our utility costs. These you'll see. We have the solar and electricity costs. I did mention that a little bit before about this year. And the cost in solar fees to our solar company. Those are pretty expensive as well. So we're looking at a 76% increase over last year. Next slide. I did go over this earlier about student outplacement and how we have decreased the students that are receiving special services from 17 3 years ago to 9, and the coming year there will be 7. So we're meeting our students' needs here in the district, which is great. There is a non-lapsing account that local boards of education have been, by state statute, allowed to put any unexpended funds from the previous year's budget into a non-lapsing account to use for unforeseen or unexpected expenses in the coming year. And we have been utilizing this quite effectively. In the next slide, you'll see how we've spent money in our non-lapsing account. Over the last 4 years, we've spent $398,000 on building improvements, $300,000 on software, $280,000 on a technology lease, and $125,000 in severance, Social Security, and Medicare taxes. So you can see on the chart here, $1.6 million over 4 years we have been able to save and use for these expenses, and this helps offset our capital request expenditures and be able to respond to needs in the district. The last slide is our capital budget request. We do have a priority list here, including paving at Jerome and Pawtucket Valley schools, parking areas and playgrounds and driveways. We're also asking for an HVAC, a new upgraded HVAC system at Totucket Valley for the gymnasium. And once, if we do get that, the whole building will have AC and heating. The district, overall, the district is looking to improve its management system so that they all work together and communicate together. We do have some older systems that are becoming defunct and hard to find replacement parts for, so we'd like to get that upgraded as well. The auditorium management system and the lobby floor is in need of replacement, and on our wish list is a synthetic turf field and an improvement of our track. And that would be something that the whole community could use and enjoy. And that is my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention tonight. And I'm sorry to have to deliver the most expensive budget. We are asking for 6.16 increase, which is commensurate to the other departments in town. We know this is not the last step. We will be having another workshop with council on the 10th of this month, and perhaps we can find some additional things. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we are going to open the public hearing. So just a reminder to please sign in at the table by the door with please put your name and address so the clerk has a record of it. There is the 3-minute limit. The public hearing was noticed, and we are now, it is 7:17, and we will open the public hearing. So when you come up, please state your name and address, and then so if there's anyone from the public that would like to speak. That's where you sign in, yes. And you'll go up to the podium to speak.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry, do I identify myself again? Okay. Linda Hanson, 6 Rose Lane, of Branford, Connecticut. First, thanks to everybody for all you do. Oh, I'm too tall, I think. Sorry.
It's not a bad thing.
Okay.
That's a really good thing.
There's
advantages to being short.
So thanks for everything you do.
Maybe more
Obviously, a lot of work went into this. Actually, I have one kind of question and 2 comments. The first comment is, and I've seen some other people say the same thing, I think everybody is open to tax increases. I think we expect it. I mean, everything goes up every year, right? But I think $1,600 or $1,800 or whatever that number may be is a lot to bite off. I think people are more used to seeing increases like in the hundreds, not in the thousands. So that's, and I think particularly the seniors in this town that don't meet that minimum threshold, I think it's a big bite for them to chew off. Second comment I have just has to do with voting in general. So my experience, I was really surprised when I showed up last year that I voted, but my vote didn't count because the minimum wasn't met. So I did go back to Rose. I was curious about it. She said, look at the stats on the website. I did. And when I did, I saw really that was the pattern for, say, the last 5, however many years. I mean, you can go back and look. The votes don't count. And I think for me, particularly as a citizen of the town, that's very disappointing. I think we need to do one of two things. I mean, I see it as a town responsibility. You can say, oh, people are lazy, they don't care. I don't personally believe that's true. I think people do care, especially if you said to them it's $1,600 more out of your wallet. So I don't buy that. I think it's a responsibility of the town to feel strong about getting people out to vote as providing these services and keeping commitments to all the different people that the budget supports. They have a commitment to the citizens of the town as well, to be fiscally responsible and to get people, to drive people out to vote. I work in marketing. That's my job, drive leads, drive people. And I can't go to my boss and say, hey, you know, people didn't buy our product, but that's not my fault. It is my fault. It's my job. So the minimum voting either should go away or get people, drive people to vote. It's not right. It's not fair. You may as well say the vote doesn't count. It's the third thing that, and I'm not a real big numbers person. I do have a degree in business. But the thing that's a little confusing to me is if you're increasing house taxes or property taxes by 22%, and that's the primary thing that's paying on one side of the balance sheet for all this other. Okay, where do you get the 8% increase in budget? There's a disparity there. That's a question. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Judy Bannon, and I am a member of the Board of Education, but the comments that I'm making right now, I want to make clear are my own. I don't speak for the board, I don't speak for any of the administration. I would like to just say that I truly appreciate the upgrades and the things that the council has done to try to make North Branford a force. The new high school, the new police station, I'm in favor of all of it. But what I'd like to also say about that is that if we want to become the town that I think we're hoping to become, unfortunately that means we have to pay for it. And my opinion right now will not be a popular one. But what I will say is that when I call the fire department, I don't want them to worry if their fire truck is going to start. I want them to have the safety equipment that they need to be going into a burning building and then come out. I want the police department to be funded. I want the library to be funded. I want everyone to get what they need. But what I recognize as a citizen is that that means that I have to be willing to go along with that and to pay. Just because we don't want to pay more taxes doesn't mean that we don't have to. And I think that my last request to the council would be to look at departments equally. Some departments need less money than others. Some need more money. Their percentages are very similar. So I would ask you to consider that when you're looking at the budgets and trying to make the cuts that will be required. But again, just because we don't want to pay more taxes doesn't mean that we don't need to. Thank you.
My name's Liz Hoskins, 43 David Lane. I'm here tonight in support of the Board of Ed budget. I agree with what Judy said. It's been a tough couple years for everybody, but I know my family, we've made adjustments with our budget so we can still afford the things that are important to us. I just want to say a couple things about the North Branford public school system. I graduated college 30 years ago and I majored in education. When I graduated, you had to have a double major because there were so many people getting into the education field. We're in a nationwide teacher shortage. And while it's people not getting into education, it's also a lot of educators leaving the field. Why? Because the pay, number one, and the incredible workload. I feel like every year more and more gets put on teachers. And I see that. I mean, we have a lot of great staff here in town, but I know they're maxed out. And my fear is that if the Board of Ed has to make some major cuts, it's going to be the personnel, it's going to be the support for the teachers, and it's only going to increase their workload. I have 3 kids who have been through and currently in the school system. I have a son that graduated 2 years ago. I have a daughter that's a senior and a son that's a sophomore. All 3 of my kids, luckily, have had IEPs, so they have that insurance policy that they're going to get the support and resources that they need, and I'm grateful for that because the town has been wonderful with all 3 of my kids. My concern with cuts coming up is that it's not going to help the kids in that gray area, the ones that aren't qualified for 504s or IEPs, that kind of slip through the cracks, that the supports that they have might need to be taken away if we have to do some major cuts, which I'm expecting. I was surprised last year with the loss of the instructional coaches at the middle school and high school level. I feel like those are really important. It took us a while to get them in place, and now they're gone, and it's been my experience through the past couple of decades that once something's gone, it's very difficult to get it back. I just want to applaud the administrators and staff for the way that they've made cuts carefully, protecting class sizes, protecting staff in the past couple of years with the cuts. I think it's also necessary to mention the mental health crisis that's going on. And I think adolescents and kids are a big part of that, adding that increase in mental health crisis. And again, I applaud North Branford Public Schools for the amount of supports that they have in place for our students. I understand that the population is decreasing, and some people are saying that the schools should adjust to that. But when you look around at our neighborhoods and the new homes that are coming in, they're not starter homes and they're not retirement homes. They're big family homes. So I'm expecting that number to increase over the next couple of years. In closing, I just want to say I know the town council has to sharpen their pencils and do what's best for the town, but I'm just hoping that it's not at the expense of our kids. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Bonnie Szymanski. I'm from 50 West Pond Road in North Branford. What I really have is a question, because I don't understand what you're talking about in terms of the solar. If somebody could explain that, about the solar fees, and it's not budgeted, and what do you mean by that?
We'll get into that later. Right now, you just
Okay.
keep
So
on
that
with your comments.
that was one question I had. And the other thing is, I totally agree with Judy that if we want to be proud of our town, we have to pay for it. But what I really did was have that question. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Courtney Grimes. We live at 25 Woodvale. We have actually left town due to military orders and fought to come back to this town. So that's how much we actually love being here. We could have went anywhere due to military orders, and we fought to come back here. I also have 3 children, all on IEPs. My household's probably one of the most expensive tickets to this table right here due to my outplacement of children. An outplaced child that will not come back to North Branford and cannot come back to North Branford due to his needs. And that is funding that will always have to be allocated. So I am in support of the Board of Education. But I think when the Board of Education gets its funds, it makes sure it's going to the students, not just housing sports, not just busing, not just one thing. It goes to all of the students. Students come first. My daughter plays hockey. I will have to pay for her to play her entire life. I will never get the opportunity to have, you don't have to pay to play, because that doesn't fit my household. I'd rather have people paying for sports and having that money go to educational purposes, to have the support for the educators, to have the support for the supplies for the classrooms. We are here to support the students in the classrooms, and everything that comes before and after that, curricular activities, right, that's the right word, is just a bonus. Education is number one, and education needs to be the top priority when it comes to funding and splitting this allocation if the budget should be approved. And honestly, I don't think it's enough. I think we need more. I think that people are very naive to what is happening in the classrooms and how devastating, teachers are facing and what they are facing. And when it comes to budgeting and the increase, I get it. Again, military family. I was a stay-at-home mom for 11 years. We made it work. We budgeted. We cut what we didn't need, and we made sure we saved for what we needed. Education is important to this town. And furthermore, in another sense, this town cannot rely on its residents to solely support and fund this. We need to bring bigger bigger buildings, bigger stores, bigger things in this town to help. We stop saying we're a small farm town. That's done. That's in the past. I love this town. I love how small it is. I love Cocoa. I love all those things. But we need to bring money to this town. It cannot survive on its residents alone.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vince Mace, 3 Gale Drive, Northford, Connecticut. I sat on the Board of Education for several years, so I've been through this before. Sat on the Town Council for a couple of years, been through that before. And if I can't sleep tonight, I'm going to take this home and I start reading it, it'll probably bore me to hell and I'll have to fall asleep. Because getting one of these and going over all these figures, how could you understand them? It's really, really, really confusing. So. But what we do is we elect people to serve on these boards to guide us as to what is in these documents and all the figures. And when I was on the Board of Education, one of the problems was the school system, not the system, but the building was so terrible, we were afraid young families were not going to move into North Branford and Northford because of our education, because of the school, and we needed to do something. And this was what the result was, a beautiful facility like this here. And part of the problem is, I'm not in favor of the budget, I'm not against the budget. I'm here for everybody to value what they consider the town. What I don't understand is how the appraised values of our houses go up. The mill rate goes down, but our taxes go up. Because it's really great that when I first moved into town, I paid $83,000 for my house, and now it's worth $500,000 or $550,000. That's terrific. But the price comes with the appraised values. The price comes that they have something to run, they have the town to run, and the revenue is the taxes. So that being said, everybody has to value. Yes, I understand that your taxes are going to go up, but we need to keep the town running. And what I'd like to add is that keep in mind that other towns and other communities are going to be affected by whatever's going on in their town, all right? We have a great facility here. We have the police station is absolutely gorgeous as well, okay? But that is the 21st century. And the facilities that we had before were from the 19th century. So yeah, we have to pay for it. I only want the town council to consider our seniors, people with disabilities, people on small pensions, and if they're having a problem, that they can get the help from the town council as we approve this budget sometime in the future. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope I didn't bore everybody tonight. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Keller Jack Vernon, 373 Village Street, Northford. Just really a few comments. First, what the gentleman said, my family and I moved here 2 years ago, and this school going in was a major contributing factor in that, as to whether this school district worked for my kids. So we appreciate that it's here and appreciate the time that I put into that. Really, two things. I understand needing to pay more in taxes this next year, and totally understand that. I'm a little dismayed to see that even with that increase, that the certified teachers' salaries went down. I find that a little, maybe I didn't misunderstand it or what it is, but that's the one red number I see on the list of salaries is certified teachers that went down. I'm a little concerned with that. The other thing is to kind of encourage both boards to consider. You know, I have a lot of faith in my state and in my town. I am worried about the instability of federal funds coming in this next year, and I want to ensure that that both school side and city side are considering the possibility that some of these grant funds that we're relying on could dry up at any time. And be sure that if that does happen, that we're still able to support the kids, we're able to support the programs that are necessary in our community. So, thank you.
12 million away for education in Connecticut.
Hello, my name is Sally Cuccinata. I live at 131 Totucket Road, North Branford. I went to public schools here, and I'm also a coach here, and thanks to the wonderful school system that I have had growing up, I am attending university at Southern Connecticut State, and I'm also working at our state capitol right now with some of our representatives and our senators. I'd like to say that I'm super educated on all this stuff and the budget and everything, but as of right now, I'm not, and I don't really know what's going to happen, especially when it comes to Department of Education, and neither do our legislators, really. Like the gentleman before me said, we're kind of all unsure of what's going to happen to our education department in this state, and because of the federal administration, you know, we don't really know what the future holds. So I'm just here to say it's important to start work in your town. Showing up here tonight is really important, but also calling your representatives and calling your senators and asking them to support where you want your tax dollars to go is really important, whether it's state or federal. It's important to call and speak up for yourselves, because sometimes, and especially right now, it might not be enough to just talk to local politicians or local representatives. So working in the Capitol, I've learned your representatives do care, and they do want to help, and they do value education, and they value the things that you value. So yeah, just try to stick up for yourself and call on your representatives if you can. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Amy Conroy, 67 Caputo Road, right here in North Branford, and this is my backyard. I just want to thank the board and for the town council for what you guys have done. I've attended multiple sessions of these meetings over the years, and this one feels exceptionally heavy, and I can't even imagine what's gone into making this happen. What I wanted to share is when we moved to this town 9 years ago, it's hard to believe that my son's going to be 14, we moved here because we fell in love with the town because of POCO and those events. And our experience in this educational system overall has been phenomenal. Initially, my son had some struggles in the early ages, and because of advocates who stood up for him, he has made remarkable progress to the point he no longer needs a 504 plan anymore to support him. And that's because of the incredible teams that we have here that support us. The other side that I want to advocate for is also for our first responders, our fire department. I haven't heard much about it. They are absolutely phenomenal. In February, I met 2 years of beating ovarian cancer, and I actually had to call. During my treatment, I actually had to call for emergency services at one point, and the response was absolutely incredible, and the services that they provide is just extraordinary. So I just want to speak in support of our budgets and thank everybody for your involvement. It really is an investment in our future, and the funds that we spend now, we're going to see down the road because our students will come back and live here. So thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley McLean, as you learned earlier. I was not planning on speaking tonight, so bear with me as I jumble my words together. But like Ms. Bannon, you'll always be Ms. Bannon to me, but like Ms. Bannon said, as a daughter of a first responder, I 100% fully believe that our emergency services should have all the equipment that they need to prepare and support our community in the best ways that they can. They have fully changed the life of my son and our family, and I am forever grateful for that. I also stand before you as a parent of 2 children in the school system, one who is neurotypical and one who is neurodiverse. Like Courtney said, my son, whom you all met here today, here we go, is outplaced, and I know that that is a big expense to the town of North Branford. But what I will also say is, as I hear some of the proposed budget, I'm also a collegiate dance coach, and that will make sense in a second. While I appreciate the request and the wish list of a turf field, I would love my son to have the opportunity to come back to the school district and hire the appropriate staff to be able to give him the services that he needs to be able to be in the community with his peers. And I also think that those particular services need to be extended into recreational activities. I worked very closely with the town and the Park and Rec to establish adaptive and inclusive programming for our children in our community. However, they are not fully supported in being able to support kids with different abilities. And we've been able to make that happen completely free of charge to these individuals in our community. So there are ways to make things happen. You have to think outside of the box. You have to ask questions. You have to think bigger than what the perspective is. But I do think that this budget is important, but like Courtney shared, don't forget about the kids that are not supported right now and not getting the services to be able to be in town and happen to be outplaced and not be able to be with their peers. So I just ask that you think about those children as well too.
Are there any other public comments? Going once? Going twice? Okay, so we will close the public hearing at 7:43. And now we will go into the next item on the agenda, which is discussion. I did not notice. I'm going to reopen the public hearing. There's one comment, a letter that was sent in to be read into the record. This is from Elizabeth Kaplan. I have an awards dinner for one of our students this evening, and I'm not sure I will be able to attend the hearing. If you would be so kind to make copies for the town council, which they did, and we have it, and I will now read it into the record. Dear council members, I have come before you many times over the years saying the same thing: please support the budget as a whole. I have never understood this process. I believe that each department, board, and commission members have worked very diligently in creating budgets that will allow services to continue all members of the community as best they can. I also realize you have a tremendous responsibility on your shoulders, which is not easy. I hope that tonight's explanation will include the revale and how people's taxes can potentially be affected. It appears that a lot of misinformation is out there, and it would be much appreciated that people understand what the numbers are directly from the town manager. Lastly, I think it is important that on July 1st, conversations begin with all departments and commissions about needs for the following year. I truly believe there should be a system in place where needs are met It is fair, there is respect and understanding. Thank you for your time and consideration, Elizabeth and Judy. Okay. Public hearing is now closed again. Next item on the agenda is discussion and action for the proposed 25-26-10 budget. So the first order of business is going to be a discussion with the council. Our regular council meeting for April is scheduled for April 15th, and this is school vacation week, and I know there's probably some council members that will be away for that meeting. We also have a meeting scheduled for the following week on April 22nd, which is to finalize the budget. So I would like to propose that we cancel the April 15th council meeting and put it in with our meeting on April 22nd, so we have one meeting, and it'll afford the opportunity for all council members to be present. So do I have a motion to cancel April 15th and reschedule for April 22nd?
Make a motion to amend the changes, schedule.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. So our April 15th council meeting is canceled, and it will be wrapped into our meeting on April 22nd. So our part of the reason this is on the agenda tonight is because the Board of Education, next week we start our budget workshops, which are for all departments and the Board of Education. Traditionally in the past, the Board of Education, we generally don't have time on both nights to meet with or to discuss all budgets, all departments in Board of Education. So it was posed to the Board of Education this year if they wanted to pick a specific night to be in attendance for their budget workshop, and they chose April 10th as the night for their budget workshop. So that is, they will be on that night along with any other departments that we come up with. So in order for them to prepare for that meeting and that we have time to get information, so we have it ahead of time to discuss, we have a list of questions to present to you tonight so that you can work on this, and you can either, if you have the information prior to April 10th, you can send it to the town manager, or you can bring it that night and we can discuss it. Having it before would be helpful, but I understand if you bring it that night. So I'm just going to go through some of these. I hope you take notes of whatever department needs to take notes on this. But I noticed on one of your slides there was a listing of outside funding sources, but I didn't see all of them included up there that were discussed at other Board of Ed budget workshops, such as open choice money, Smart Start grant, tuition that will now be charged for preschool. So if we can have a list of all outside funding sources. And then in addition to that, how are all of these funding sources put into your budget? Because in looking at your budget and the line items, I cannot see where those, if they're in there somehow. If the budgets are deducted, where are they? So if we can get how those are shown in the budget, that would be great. Solar credits. This has been a topic since the solar fields came on existence. We spent a lot of time last year talking on it because that was the first year that we actually found out how much it was generated. We were not getting bills for a long time. So there's basically two companies that we get bills from for electricity. One is for the UI, and this is all related to the solar field. I know Wallingford Electric plays into it for the Northford side, so solar credits has nothing to do with Wallingford Electric. They're just another source of energy for that side of town. So in the budgets, on the town side and the Board of Education side, last year we discussed we really need to have 2 line items, one for electricity, which is the UI, and one for solar. So what happens is the UI bill comes and they don't charge us for electricity. They tell us how many kilowatt hours that we received, and then the charges on the UI bills are like on your UI bills. Generation charges, distribution charges, all of those things. That's what we get charged for, is the distribution generation charges, not the actual energy. So what we found out last year is that between Jerome Harrison, NBIS, the auditorium, and the high school, those are the largest uses of our solar credits. There are some town buildings that also do have solar credits. The old police station, the town hall, street lights, there's a list. But by far, the school buildings, because of their use, they get most of the solar credits. So as of last March, when we were having this discussion, there was approximately $325,000 in credit at the various locations because of the solar usage. By June 30th, the end of the fiscal year, that number had grown to $375,000. So what happens on the bill is that those credits just carry over from month to month. And obviously the school side has the bulk of them. So, and I'm just going to pick NBIS. So let's say they have a credit balance of $150,000. They get their energy bill, they get their UI bill, and if their UI bill is $20,000 and that month they receive $10,000 in solar credits from the solar field, that leaves a balance of $10,000. But because they had a credit of $150,000, they don't pay anything, and now the credit's $140,000. And it just keeps moving forward. So the other bill that we receive is from Altus. That is the solar company. And there is a set charge for the energy. So Altus finds out how much kilowatt hours we've used in each of the designations, and we are charged 0.1195. So that is for the actual energy charge. So the Altus bill, the solar, it's really not a management fee. It's your energy, it's your electric cost, is from the solar fee. So there's 2 bills. Solar is Altus, UI is the generation and distribution on there. So there is, we've had some issues. We think we've gotten them all straightened out between UI and Altus that we're now more in sync. But to better understand how the electricity and the solar credits are budgeted on the Board of Ed side, because we have it on the town side, but on the Board of Ed side, it's hard for us to see that. We would like to ask that we get a copy of all the UI and solar bills for fiscal year 23-24, because we were totally on solar for that year, and for the current year, 24-25, however, at whatever point you are on there, so that we can see how that is working. Based on the budget that we received from the Board of Ed at this point, I know I'm a little confused as to how they're budgeting for the electric and the solar on there, because the information that was given to us at last week's budget workshop, some of the schools have high credit balances, and they possibly will still have those going into next year. So I'm not exactly sure. They have broken it out between electricity and solar, so we would just like to see what those look like and to have more of a discussion in regards to, because it is a large item in their budget on there. Also, if we can get copies of the UI bills for the old NBHS that was torn down in 23, like May of 23 they tore it down. Because the audit has not been finished for the 23-24 school year, if we can get the bills from NBHS, the portion of the building that was torn down, and we were still being billed for electricity from July of 23 until it stopped, which might be sometime in February or March of 24. This was discussed at a joint meeting that we had in June of last year in the town manager's conference room. And the reason for this is that those bills should go towards the project, the high school project. And if that's the case, then that money that would get received would be eligible to go into your fund account 25 for last year on there. So if we can get those, that would be great. Also, I know there was a slide in regards to the health insurance, and there was a large increase in the health insurance. I looked at the slide, but I think we need to have a little bit more of a discussion on that. I saw the payments, the payment history on there, but it seems like it's off. That it looks like we've made extra payments, but now it's built into your budget. So just want more of an explanation on the health insurance. On your status quo budget that was sent to us on page 12 under student transportation, and what was discussed at our budget presentation last week from you, it says there's a rate increase of 4% in the contract, and under student transportation it shows an increase of 26%. There's also a note that special ed transportation increased by approximately 25%, but yet the budget shows a decrease of 3.64%. And it is broken out in the budget in separate categories, so I was just wondering how that is working. Also, if we can get an explanation for the large increase in diesel, and if you have the contract, if you walk into the president. And I know last week at your budget presentation, there was a brief discussion in regards to the gym equipment here. And the reason I'm bringing this up is since the audit is not complete for 23-24, there is a possibility that that gym equipment could be funded through the project for the high school. And if that's the case, then again, that money would come back to you for account 25 on there. So if we can get copies of the POs for the new gym equipment that were issued in June of 24 and the funding sources for that, then we can have a discussion on that and see once if we can get that covered through the project. Does anyone else on the council have any other questions to pose to the board, because they'll be here on April 10th? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn.